Now, there are many animes out there that we consider to be good or even great. Animes that have a well-written main character, animes that have a phenomenal cast of side characters, animes with good villains, good writing, good storytelling, etc. However, what we don't have as often is an anime that we consider as generational. A good anime or manga series is pretty common in the anime community, and they come out pretty often. They're not a very rare thing to find. However, a generational series, that's something completely different, and we usually get one of those every decade or so. Now, what do I mean when I say a generational series? Well, I'm not talking about a series that is the best written. An anime doesn't have to be the best for it to be considered generational. For example, one of the most generational manga and anime series out there is Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball redefined what it meant to be a battle shonen anime, and then it went on to define further generations of anime, influencing so many other animes out there. That is what made it generational, the impact it had. That is why Dragon Ball is remembered. Another example of generational, in my opinion, is the big three: Bleach, One Piece, and Naruto. These three dominated manga so much in the early 2000s that they created their own label. No other series came close to these three, and these three went on to inspire the animes and mangas that we have today. So with that being said, and understanding the impact an anime needs to have to be considered generational, I wholeheartedly believe that Jujutsu Kaisen falls into that category of generational. Now, I know Jujutsu Kaisen right now is under a lot of heat. The ending was sort of disappointing for a lot of people. There was a lot of gaps in the writing, you could say. The final arc didn't live up to a lot of people's expectations, and the writing kind of derailed for a lot of people. But again, to be considered generational doesn't mean you need to be the best. It doesn't mean you need to be the best written manga out there with the most complicated writing ever. For example, I personally like My Hero Academia more than I like Jujutsu Kaisen. I think My Hero Academia overall is a better series. However, My Hero Academia has not had the same level of impact as Jujutsu Kaisen. Whether or not you like Jujutsu Kaisen, you cannot deny the impact it has had on the anime and manga community as a whole. And it begs the question, will there ever be another Jujutsu Kaisen? And I don't think so. Again, these generational animes don't come as often as a good anime. There needs to be something special. There needs to be a spark that makes them generational, and Jujutsu Kaisen had that. So what makes Jujutsu Kaisen so special in comparison to other new gen animes out there, like My Hero Academia for instance? Well, the moment I realized that Jujutsu Kaisen could never be replicated ever again was during the Gojo vs Sukuna fight. I have never seen a manga fight impact a community and change the community as a whole as much as the Gojo vs Sukuna fight. I have not seen that level of hype that lasted for months from one fight. The only other fight I can think of that had the same level of hype as Gojo vs Sukuna was Goku vs Jiren from Dragon Ball. But keep something in mind real quick. Dragon Ball has been out for more than 3 decades. So the Goku vs Jiren fight had over 3 decades of hype behind it. Jujutsu Kaisen has been out for less than 10 years. And on top of that, the Goku vs Jiren fight was an anime form, so it was a lot more accessible for the public to watch. Gojo vs Sukuna has not even come close to being animated. That was in full manga form. Anime fights usually have a lot more hype behind them than a manga fight, because anime fights have all the flashy animation, the cool details, and plus, I think it's safe to say that more people are likely to watch the anime version than they are to seek out the manga version. But that did not apply to the Gojo vs Sukuna fight, because the hype behind each chapter was insane, and the fact that the hype didn't die down week after week but only kept building up is even crazier. I mean, every single week, it was like a global event. People gathered to find out what in the world was going on in the Gojo versus Sukuna fight. That is how hooked people were. Even if you did not like Jujutsu Kaisen, even if you didn't like the fight, didn't like the ending, didn't like anything about it, you cannot lie and say you were not hooked to that fight week after week. I have seen so many people make the claim that Jujutsu Kaisen was nothing special, even though I know for a fact that they stayed up every single week past midnight just so that they can see the chapter as soon as possible through the leaks. How many other series out there kept you up late at night every single week because you were just that excited to read the chapter and you were dying to find out what was going on? Personally, I can't say any other series has done that for me, where each week I stay up just to see what is going on in the next chapter. That's how hooked I was, and that's how hooked hundreds of thousands of other people were. And this wasn't a Jujutsu Kaisen only event. This was an entire anime event. The entire anime community was involved in this fight. Everybody wanted to know what was going on. It was insane. The entire community was split right down the middle, with one side cheering for Gojo and the other side rooting for Sukuna. That is how big this was. And this lasted for months, and after every week, the hype was only getting bigger and bigger. Ever since the start of the fight till the very end, the hype was there, and the hype stayed there even a bit after the end of the fight. That is how much impact it had. For a manga fight to stay that hype for months is definitely a feat. And after that point, Jujutsu Kaisen was getting so much recognition outside of the anime world. Each and every week, I was seeing brand new celebrities tweet about Jujutsu Kaisen, mention something about Jujutsu Kaisen, reference Jujutsu Kaisen in their works. That is how big Jujutsu Kaisen had gotten after the Gojo versus Sukuna fight. And I know this entire time I've been talking about just the Gojo versus Sukuna fight, and I know some people are going to be saying, oh, you can't call a series generational just because of one fight. And if you say that, I'm just going to automatically assume you did not read the Gojo versus Sukuna fight when it was coming out. Because if you were one of those hundreds of thousands or even one of those millions of people that was reading the fight week by week, you would know that this wasn't just a fight. It wasn't an ordinary manga anime fight. This was a global event, as I mentioned earlier. Everybody was tuning in, not just Jujutsu Kaisen fans. Everybody was tuning in to see what was going on. And the anime is no pushover either, because when the Shibuya incident arc was airing for Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2, every week Jujutsu Kaisen was #1 on trending on every single social media platform out there. It was untouchable in terms of popularity. No other series was coming close. It was complete domination in every sense of the word. And domination is what gave One Piece, Bleach, and Naruto the title of the Big Three. It's because of how much they were dominating the manga scene. Jujutsu Kaisen is not only dominating the manga scene, it's dominating the anime scene. And honestly, when the anime gets to the Gojo vs Sukuna fight, I'm kind of scared at what's gonna happen to the internet. Because keep in mind, manga is a lot less accessible to a lot of people. A lot less people read the manga than they watch the anime. And yet, the Gojo vs Sukuna fight in the manga was still like the biggest thing ever. So imagine when the anime finally gets to that point and animates that fight. So now you'd have every single person who read the manga go and watch the anime fight. And on top of that, it's going to be a brand new audience of people watching it for the first time. Imagine how insane the internet is going to go in a few years when this fight is actually animated and not in just manga form. And we've already seen, just based off the Shibuya incident arc, that the Jujutsu Kaisen anime is on a different level compared to the manga. It is night and day. The manga isn't bad, but the anime is just next level with its animation. And yes, I know Jujutsu Kaisen is not the best written series out there. It's not the most amazing written story. and it has a lot of flaws. In fact, some of you might even think that Jujutsu Kaisen is not well written at all, and I get that. Personally, I love Jujutsu Kaisen, but even I can see that the series has flaws, and I don't even have it as my favorite new gen manga. But in terms of impact, in terms of what it's done to the manga and anime community, no other new gen series is touching it. The only other new gen series that could potentially have a case to be considered generational is Demon Slayer. But let's be real for a second. None of us were staying up week after week to read the Demon Slayer manga. And the only reason why Demon Slayer is so popular, or at least as popular as it is now, is because of the stellar animation. If Demon Slayer didn't have that animation backing it up, would it be as popular as it is today? Definitely not. Jujutsu Kaisen proved that it doesn't need fantastic animation. It doesn't even need an anime to be next level, to be among the greats. That's how good the Gojo versus Sukuna fight truly was. It made Jujutsu Kaisen into a generational anime single-handedly. So the same way how there will never be a new Dragon Ball, there will never be a new Bleach, there will never be a new One Piece, a new Naruto, I genuinely believe there will never be a new Jujutsu Kaisen. Because Jujutsu Kaisen reached levels that majority of animes and manga series will never reach. No matter how well written they are, no matter how much of a masterpiece they are, there are just some series that fail to reach that same level as Jujutsu Kaisen did. And again, Jujutsu Kaisen's obviously no masterpiece. It has its flaws. It's not the best written story out there, but again, you don't need to be the best written story to be considered generational. All you need to do is completely revolutionize the game in a way nobody has ever seen before. And Jujutsu Kaisen did just that. Anyways, with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and let me know what other videos you guys want to see next. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys on the next one.